to the podcast, Career Trek Unfiltered, which is organized by Career Trek, IIT Delhi Alumnus Initiative on Career Mentoring. In our podcast, we attempt to break down careers and future of careers with no sugarcoating. Today's podcast is being organized by Career Trek in association with MarketScope and Stocio. MarketScope is a recruitment firm with bespoke recruitment strategies, and it helps connect people with employment opportunities. Stocio, I think Devlina knows better, is a firm that blends stories and AI to craft impactful pitches for businesses. In today's podcast, we are going to address the anxiety and stress that students and parents they experience when it comes to navigating the career path. And also, in particular, we'll be discussing the impact of AI in careers going forward. What will be the impact? Our guests today are Mukesh Batra, an IIT Delhi alumnus whose credo is education to employability, and who, in the course of 3 decades, has impacted close to 200,000 careers. Joining him is Devlina Majumdar. After a successful 25 years in the corporate world, she is now a successful entrepreneur and also a publisher of fictional as well as non-fictional books. She believes that career is a dance between readiness and learning. Joining me from Team Career Trek is Mr. Navs Srivastav, who will be representing the parent community, and Kriti Joshi, who will be representing the student community. And I'm Jayanti Mukherjee, your host and moderator for today's day. Over to you, sir and ma'am.
Thank you, Jayanti, for having us in this podcast, and thanks for such warm words. I would just request Devlina to just talk about her career journey, which is an inspirational journey where all of us and the audience can learn from her journey. And then the structure going forward would be Navji from the parent community and Kriti from the student community would ask some questions which are source of stress to the respective communities. And Devlina and myself, we would try to address the careers and the role of AI in careers. So I would try and focus on role of careers and bit of AI role with respect to building careers. And Devlina would focus on the role of AI in careers going forward. Over to you, Devlina.
Thank you so much, Mukesh. Thank you, Jayanti, and thank you everyone for joining in. So as I mentioned, I look at career as a dance between readiness and learning. And I'll tell you how this happened for me. I grew up in Calcutta, 1980s, and I loved both stories and numbers. And for the longest time, I thought, these are two disparate parts of my life. So I love numbers. So I did statistics from Presidency College, Calcutta, then did MBA Finance from FMS Delhi. And I joined a series of roles where my day job was to analyze and understand numbers. So I worked in investment banking, investment management, and in venture capital in companies like Fidelity, JP Morgan, Prudential, etc. Where I was really leading teams and trying to understand how numbers can shape decisions in large companies, in pretty large corporates. At the same time, as Jayanti mentioned, I love writing, I love stories. And I think with midlife crisis or probably the birth of my daughter together happened, and I started publishing my stories. Fiction, non-fiction, finance, data, history, things which I liked, I started publishing. And writing, I think, is an act of, more than anything else, writing is an act of both self-understanding as well as defiance, right? You realize who you are and you realize who you are not. So that is what writing gave me. Once I started publishing books, I also wrote for Economic Times for about 6 years. And that gave me a lot of learning about the sectors, the markets, and also myself and what I wanted to do. And then I think I connected the dots, the fact that I love stories and I love numbers. And I realized that there are people in business who also actually need this skill, the combination of stories and numbers. And that's how over time Stocio was born. It was again a happy dance. It's not that one day I set up and said I will set up Stocio. It was a slow realization that businesses are struggling with strategy and narratives, especially in the age of AI, where anybody can go in and put a prompt and generate some words and some ideas. But how does it connect back to what is a real picture of the organization, the readiness again of the organization for them to achieve what they've set out to do? How does it connect back to what can drive growth? A sales pitch, an investment pitch, a growth narrative. I think all those were questions we saw companies struggling with, and that's why Stocio kind of turning the entire circle back for me. I believe in strategy, in story and data, all of it together making business impact. But storytelling is like the common thread across this. And in the age of AI, what we're really trying to do, and that's where Mukesh mentioned about the future-facing part, I can answer because last few years we've been really working on this with AI. AI can help us really look at what can bring in summarization as well as further simplification. But AI cannot help us to bring our original voice forward, because think about it, AI is a massive summarization of information already there. It's a median of every information already on the internet, right? But often stories live in the deviance, right? In what is not average, and that is only there with humans. That's us original. So unless that is retained, we'll not be really either be able to use AI effectively, nor we'll be able to use our originality effectively. So that's how I look at it. And maybe I'm biased because I am looking at storytelling and AI and how that will drive impact for businesses. But that's my take on it. And I understand, as Jayanti mentioned, as Mukesh mentioned, especially for students, I also have a college going daughter. There is a lot of questions around what does this really mean, therefore, to me and my career and where I'm heading. And not that we have all the answers, but happy to kind of address any thoughts which are immediate and based on things which we are seeing with clients and teams around us.
Great. So one question, and then I would request you to give us a brief about Stoicio, and then move to questions from the parent and the student community. So my question to you is, which is my favorite question, is that if you were to revisit your entire career journey, what is it that you would have done differently given the current scenario, or if you would have found a mentor like Career Trek for you?
Yeah. So I think for me, a lot of things actually I'm quite happy with, because as I mentioned, learning for me is very important. And every step, I think, whether I did it correctly or I took a misstep, there was learning. So I would not ever shortchange that, because learning is critical. But as you mentioned, Mukesh, I think the mentorship aspect is very critical. So what Career Trek is doing, which is at early stage, when you're about to make a choice, too many choices are there. In fact, choices are just increasing today. And at that point, based on what you are good at, what your transferable skills are, and therefore what you could kind of be responsible for, I think that a lot of people don't understand very well. And I also didn't, right? It took me time to understand that my skills in strategy and my skills in stories can actually combine together. It's not two disparate or two disparate areas. So I think mentoring would have probably helped me do what I'm doing now 5-7 years earlier. So that's what I feel. It can speed up your decisions and make sure maybe some of the learning you're doing on your own, it can give you the collective learning of people who have been mentoring for a long time. So that's where I see a big difference.
Absolutely. That's what exactly Career Trek approach focuses on, because I have looked at my own journey and I have realized one thing, that had Career Trek been available to Mukesh Batra, maybe I would not have gone into IIT, or if I would have gone to IIT, I would have chosen for a combination of maths and psychology subjects, whichever stream that could offer me. So given this background, we would now move to questions from Nabji and Kriti. Over to you, Nabji. Nabji, you're on mute.
Nabji, you're on mute.
I think till Nabji unmutes, I'll probably quickly mention about Stoicio. Mukesh, you had asked for that,
Sure,
I forgot.
sure.
So,
Yeah,
Stoicio really, it means strategy and story. So a lot of people think storytelling is what comes at the end of communication, the creative aspect of communication. What I feel is, the real story of a company starts right from strategy, and also it's rooted in data. And only when you take these elements and then you add a layer of creativity to it, can it be both powerful as well as true and authentic. And in today's age of AI, when it's so easy to actually, as you mentioned, create copycats of content, your voice and the company's voice has to come out very, very strongly, which is what we are trying to do. So what we do is we have a product, again, called Stoicio, where we really are able to simplify the strategy narrative of a company and then use that to frame the different growth narratives, which could be around investment if a company is raising investment. It could be around sales if a company is raising, doing sales kind of presentation, which every company has to do. It could be around brand. And it could also be around the internal reviews, because a lot of companies, when the story might be told well externally, internally every team has a different incentive and different kind of requirements, and there again it fails. So these are all failure points, possible failure points of narrative and numbers, which we try to address by following a very structured data-led and story-led kind of framework. And using this, companies that sign up, individuals in companies who sign up, can get very important documents, which is around their growth, their brand deck, their sales deck, their deck, and their internal review deck in an automated format, but in their own voice, company's voice. Also, we have a prep module, which is very interesting, because as people present, we realize not everybody is as good as presenting. So it also prepares people with the questions so that they can prepare for potential answers. And there's a data layer which happens, using again AI, where every information, as you kind of do it, it gets richer and richer. So tomorrow you actually will know what worked, what didn't work, right? So which particular kind of problem is helping you, not helping you. So that is the entire idea. And we're just looking at how we can help more and more growth stage companies to really accelerate their growth using this.
So, two aspects are very interesting given the current scenario and the way Career Tech is strategically positioned. We are looking at school students from class 8 to 12 as well as college students. So, when we talk about Viksit India,
Yes.
Viksit Bharat, so there is a huge buzz about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And when we speak this language, I am aware of a couple of startups who are talking about unearthing entrepreneurs from schools.
Yes.
So, does Stoicio also take care of the school kids, or is it focused on only the corporate or the college piece? How does it work out?
So no, even the kids who have an idea or who want to develop an idea can use the platform to develop their entire narrative. And they can also, more importantly, I think the prep module will really help the kids because they can prepare for what kind of questions they would be asked if they want to do it real life. And therefore, they can prepare the answers as well. So the prep model, I think, is even more useful for the kids because these are early stage, they are just thinking about their first idea and that really helps them. So yeah, definitely it is open to kids as well for doing this. Very happy to explore with schools or with partners who want to use it. And you're right, Mukesh, given India is one of the youngest countries, that our median age is 28.7 as of today, and one of the largest young populations globally, no matter whichever way we look at it, right, and with AI also coming in, the jobs of the future has a combination of which jobs are in high demand, which sectors, and therefore how can you prepare yourself for that, as well as what can you do on your own, which can really give a lot of innovation as well as income. So both will run in parallel. In fact, that's why the government is also coming up with more programs to bring skills integration in the schools. And part of skills integration in schools is employability and entrepreneurship. So it's very much aligned to that, Mukesh.
Okay, great. So I would like to have your view on basically EP 2020
Yes.
talks about internships in
Yes.
schools.
Yes.
So which means class 8 student onwards, they're talking about internships. So if we partner Stoicio and Career Track, because Career Track is focused on identifying the skills and aptitude and readiness for what kind of career. So then the approach which we follow is which course, which college, which internship.
Yeah.
Is basically that if you don't know which career to explore, then you take up internships.
Yeah.
So what is your view on internships of these school kids in startups? How does it work out according to you? Or is it too much futuristic thought which we are trying to fast track?
I think I would go back to what Jayanti said in the beginning, that there is a lot of anxiety, both among parents and among students about, what will change. I think we overestimate the short-term impact of a technology like AI, which is moving very fast, and we underestimate the long-term impact. So in the long term, quite a few things will actually change, right? How we are working today versus what will happen tomorrow. And I think all these attempts, right? The attempt to bring schools, skills integration in schools, the attempt to kind of start with internships earlier are all ways in which, students can very early on try to figure out when it's their time to start working, what will it be like and what can help them. So I think mentorship will play the most critical role, I feel, because how will students even know which internship to apply for, even if they don't know the area they want to work in, even if they are interested in speaking, but should their internship be around policy, writing and speaking, or should their internship be around sales, which is business development and speaking, right? So there are many, I think they might know one or two skills they're good at, but they would not know how it translates into an actual career, which is where I think a combination of mentor-led opportunity to kind of find internship is very critical, because if they just randomly do internships, I think it's going to be a lot of supply, right? But not really outcomes. It will not help them make up their mind. They might feel more distressed that, I understood this, but then what is in it for me, right? So I think the mentorship component, I feel, is very, very critical the earlier you go on internship side.
So what is your view on mentorship? Because we had done a program called Sathi along with IIT Delhi Alumni Association, where we were focusing on mentoring of students, where we created a program through the students' bodies that fourth year guy will mentor a second year guy and third year guy will mentor a first year guy. Similarly, what we have been thinking that some of the first year or the second year engineering students, if they are interested and they have the flair for mentoring, they can probably mentor class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th students. What is your view on this? Because mentoring is very central to the entire process of careers, whether it's the entrepreneurial career or the non-entrepreneurial careers.
Correct. No, I agree. I think we all have seen the impact of good mentors or the lack of it on our careers. But I think at the same time, a structured approach, I feel, is very important, because finally, it's two persons, right? The mentee and the mentor, what they will discuss and what they will enable. So I think having technology as an enabler, where some kind of early assessments can be done, some kind of initial recording of what was actually important for them can be shared, can make it more structured. Otherwise, when people come to calls, it can become a little random. So I think using technology to kind of make a more clear assessment of the gaps and the aspirations and the skills, I feel would be very helpful. Also, some kind of training for the mentor. Like when you are speaking, there are people who are very happy with their careers and they will, just show their passion and they will guide the people. And there are others who might be happy, but they probably also are not that good at mentoring yet, right? So it's probably more unstructured, or it will be probably more difficult for the mentee to catch what they're saying. So there's a structured way in which it can be approached for the mentor. So, first call, maybe just uncover the dream, and second call, maybe look at, how to really match that to the aspiration. Then third call, maybe look at what can really help them close. That'll also help because I think nobody has too much time. So, if it can be structured for them in such a way that, every call answers only one question or two questions, and they don't have to do too many of them, maybe, X number of people only. I think that will be a scalable model. The issue I've seen, even FMS, my college, every time during the placements, they reach out, right? Saying, will you mentor people who are looking at finance, right? Careers, or my other college. And while I'm happy to do that, but as an entrepreneur, I'm also always busy, which is partly also why, Mukesh, as you know, we developed Moksho, right? The early stage assessment. Because if the early stage assessment, before it comes into actual conversation, if the early stage assessment can be actually automated and filtered using certain predefined criteria, that will really help people actually shorten the time they have to spend on every small thing. I think that there could be a combination of mentorship along with technology.
Great.
Yeah.
Nabji would request you to.
Thank you, sir. Like in my life, my wife has muted even the machines to listen to me. So
Machines are listening to you.
Yeah, okay. Thankfully, Deblina, it was very informative, and you enhanced my awareness level of this AI world or the uncertainties regarding this world. So as a parent, I'm extremely anxious. I have a 18-year-old son who is reasonably good at studies. He's not a topper, or he's not ultra brilliant, but he's, I would say, reasonably average student. At present, he's pursuing computer science, data science engineering from JSS University, Noida. But in spite of this career path that he has chosen, and I have also pushed him into this, I'm extremely anxious as to how the AI world will pan out, how the technological landscape is, and will he be future ready, or does he have trans-timeline skills that will last in the next decade or the times to last. So why I'm asking this is that though I am supposedly a skilled person with a good qualification, I find myself obsolete in terms of technological upgradation. So I don't want the same thing to happen to him. Second thing is, my question is that if there could be a peep into his mind as to what his actual tastes or potential are. So if you can deliberate on that.
Yes. No, I think it's a very important question, Abji, and this is what many parents are probably asking, maybe not able to articulate as well as clearly as you did, right? So I'll try to answer both. There are two separate questions, Nabji, right? One is the fact that computer science itself, which he is studying, which is a very good discipline to study, but given AI is kind of changing a lot of things there, therefore, how does he become future ready? That's number one. And number two is for him, as a person, right? Understand where, the deeper skills are aligned, right? Have I been able to understand correctly?
Yes. Precisely.
Correct. Yeah. So the two parts I'll give separately. First part is there is a beautiful book by Morgan Housel called Same as Ever, right? Same as Ever. And what he talks about is there are certain things which are permanent and certain things which are temporary, right? So for example, and same thing in AI, right? So today maybe vibe coding is in vogue, or maybe getting things done through prompts are in vogue, right? But if you look at companies that have stood the test of time, right? If you look at a company like Amazon, they are not talking about delivering X and Y. They are basically saying that their key KPI, their North Star is customers being happy. Now that will never change. Customers will always want more. A company always needs to make sure customers are happy. So this is an example of a permanent kind of, shift, right? Or a permanent kind of logic. Temporary things, today customers might be happy with the vibe coded software. Tomorrow they might be happy with the 3D generated software. I think the channels will change. So first thing for him within computer science is that there are certain things again in the discipline which are permanent. Right? How a code can get translated into a product which actually solves a customer problem is never going to change, because products need to solve customer problems. The methods in which he can do that in today's world will change, right? So, and other thing which I realized, and this is what, me and my co-founder Arjo, he comes from a very strong tech and data background, and he'll come for the session next time. We keep discussing is this, Navji, that today language is the code, because the coding tools can do the in automated way very quickly. But how well you can write, which was never a skill we had trained engineers to have. But how well you can write and explain your code or explain the requirements of the code is becoming an important skill. So therefore, having strong logic skills and having strong language skills is becoming very important for computer science engineers today, which was not there earlier. So this is one thing I would say is critical. Now coming to his personal thing, where is he good at? I think that is where discussing also with Mukesh, that there are and we ourselves have this platform called Moksho, where based on what kind of role he's looking for and what kind of already he has certain skills and certain resume, he can get very curated questions and he can keep preparing, because this is a key gap, preparation gap. And we talked earlier about readiness. It's not just about your skills, it's about your readiness. So today you might be the best coder, but if you can show successfully that you have used language to a level where in a month you were able to actually develop something which would have taken a year earlier, and it's a valid functional product which is solving a valid problem, right? That would really be very valuable. And if you can show that you're not just waiting to get a job, today it's possible to actually do it, using a lot of open source softwares and tools, and pick up internships, pick up in volunteering projects where you show your application skills. So I think that's what I would say would be very, very important. Use this kind of tool to prepare, be more ready, and show your application side, so that when people come to you, you can say, you need me more than I need you. And that's the shift which we probably need to make.
So, as an addition to what you just said, Devlina, I would like to ask you, because the information or the input from the market or our clients which we are getting is computer science, BTech will take a back seat in terms of preferences, and other disciplines which are core engineering, they will probably overtake computer science. Do you foresee that kind of a scenario?
I think maybe in volumes, computer science had really picked up in the volume, right? Like earlier, my husband's also from IIT Kharagpur. At their time, by score, right, you would really pick up computer science and then mechanical, electrical, electronics, etc. So those were all kind of almost like, if you're good, you will go with this, right? That became the norm. I think that part is changing now, Mukesh. So now it has to be more based on the skills, which also Navji was explaining. So, for example, one of our friends, his kid was always very good at setting up things mechanically, right? And he's one of the IIT, I think he's in top 100 or something. He never picked up computer science. He actually picked up mechanical in IIT Bombay, because that's his core interest, not computers, but machines. Mm-hmm. So again, machines also will have a lot of changes. There'll be IoT coming in. They have to become more sustainable. So I think no matter which engineering discipline or even other broader disciplines people pick up, the future readiness will come from how they're able to work with the machine. Right. So I remember one leader I spoke with gave me something very interesting, and I'll probably share that. What he said is, in the future, there'll be three kinds of people, right? When you look at skills and careers, there'll be people who are building the algorithms, right? So these are algorithm creators. So a computer science engineer who's really good, like what we mentioned, will be creating the algorithms where tomorrow's work will happen, right? Similarly, someone who's really good in mechanical engineering will be creating those machines, which are also, kind of using some kind of AI or some kind of IoT system, right? The predictive machines. The second category, I'll come back to. Third category of people will be the ones working for the machines, right? So, and as you see, a lot of the roles today are where the algorithm decides how you will work and when you will work, right? So you pick up a Drive-U or a Swiggy or a Ola, etc. The algorithm which is creating the rules of the game, and the people are just following that and, kind of figuring out when to order, where to order, how to kind of do the driving, etc. Now, this is where your skill becomes lesser order value. Algorithm becomes a higher value. And there are a lot of people who are unfortunately getting caught into that, right? Because it's easier money, lesser training, but not much probably chance of long-term career. That leaves the second part, which is the most critical and important part. These are algorithm collaborators, right? So these are people who will not probably just build the algorithm or work for the algorithm, but they will collaborate with the algorithm. What this means is, maybe a medical science person, right? They'll understand medical science very well, but they look at the application of AI in that area, right? So maybe they'll probably be able to guide somebody to look at easier diagnostics using AI. Or, even the mechanical person, right? They'll probably be able to look at, okay, not just building something for a machine, but looking at what can really reduce from the machine and maybe creating something of value. So I think my sense is more and more people should try to shift towards the second category, where the domain skills and their passion so high and their learnability is so high that they can pick up AI, even if they don't have to create with AI. There'll be enough AI creators, but the second category will actually be a broad and big category. But only difference there is people have to be self-learners. Nobody will teach them how to connect the domain and the AI. They have to
learn. Absolutely. I agree with you, because I have seen this happen with a lot of our clients, because they are the corporates who are doing AI-led transformation programs. So it is the domain guys within the organization who are picking up AI and leading some of these initiatives. So the domain guys will kind of, I feel, as you said, will take a center stage. So
As a
other
follow-up
question from you, Namji.
Yeah, as a follow-up question, I've seen parents, most of my friends are going through that process, that they are pushing their children and making a beeline for computer science engineering. But not every child is cut out for that field, or has a taste for that, or has the potential for that. But the market feedback or the information that is available in the public domain says that job redundancy or skill set obsoleteness would prevail. So where does the truth lie, and how to rest the anxiety of such a parent?
Yeah. So yeah, very good question, Nabji. I think it goes back to what we were discussing with Mukesh as well. See, I think while nobody can accurately say where will be the exact jobs of the future, right? For example, even the technology sector, IT services, many things are changing there, right? Every IT services company is today figuring out that the services project today, what they're doing, tomorrow might become AI implementation projects. You might be vibe coding and coming up with an excellent prototype software, but to actually put it into production requires a lot of things, right? So that is emerging as a new area. So every sector is actually answering this for themselves, Navji. And that's why a lot of work we're doing at Socio is, I'm coming back to that for a second, is around building that growth narrative. Every sector is obviously influenced in some way by new technology and especially AI. And they have to find out these answers. What is the role for people in that team? How will that change, etc. Coming back to the other side, where the student is now looking at their career, what will change? So I think roles which are very easily automatable, right? That is where the impact of AI will come in faster, right? Roles which are more which are more manual, right? Actually are not really AI is not coming for those, very strangely. So I was in UK some time back, and there are a lot more people, who probably not very good in studies, but who are choosing roles like electrician, plumbing, etc. because actually those are highly paid, in a market where labor is less. And they pay well, right? Similarly, nursing is coming out to a big area because globally there is the age group of people above 60 is going up, and healthcare will become very important. Now, not everybody is academically that bright, right? So I think we have a degree. I would say we have a sense of allure around degrees and college kind of programs, which also creates a mindset that everybody has to do a so-called white-collar job, right? But if you look at what we started off with, right, entrepreneurship, which is you have a skill, how can you really make that market ready or customer ready? Or you have what is today maybe not considered truly white collar, but you're a probably an independent worker in that area, and you're highly skilled in that area. These are also valid opportunities, Navji, right? So I think it depends on, again, as you said, blindly following market trends is always going to be a problem, because trends are just that. They are there today, they'll not be there tomorrow, right? So instead, as Mukesh mentioned, if the focus can be, okay, I'm good at this, right? And therefore, since I'm good at this, what is the next best thing I can do, and what are the skills I can develop, and what can I learn so that I can be actually useful in my career? I think that's the best way to look at it. So the world will still need computer science engineers. It's not going away. It's just that blindly saying the best people have to go for computer science versus saying, okay, if I'm actually very good with with architecture, I can study architecture. The world will always need more buildings, right? Versus only doing computer science. I think that is a difference which probably has to come in more.
Valid point. Valid.
So Navji, one more question from you, and then probably one question from Kriti, because we just have 10 minutes left.
Deblina, see, how do I push people or convince them to pick up a blue-collar job? Because maybe for me, it's a blasphemous act to accept a blue-collar job. How do I move in my social circle? How do I tell someone that I'm a Ola cab driver? How do I say that I'm an electrician, I'm a colony electrician, or the street vendor who is supplying vegetables? So I want a doctorate or an engineer or a professor tag attached to me. I have to do a service-oriented job, not where I soil my hands or dirty my clothes. So, and I don't want to end up as a butt of jokes in my friend circle, but that's the way the world is. So how do I handle it socially, and how do I make my child or the generation that is following me understand this reality? This is a challenge that me and my colleagues and society in general is facing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, see, India has around 28% higher education enrollment rate, right? Which means 70% is actually not in colleges, right? But even that 28%, even for them, a lot of them are not actually job ready, right? So I think that is where the gap is. On one side, you have people who are not going to college, and therefore who will probably take up some of the jobs which are not so-called formal sector jobs, right? More informal sector jobs or entrepreneurship. On the other side, you have people going for colleges who are doing extremely well and who probably go in for higher education, do very, very fancy white-collar jobs, or get into entrepreneurship who are very determined. But there's a big segment who probably are going to college, but they're not really realizing that where the opportunity for them to start is. I think that's where you are addressing this, Navji, right? So the way to think about it is this, right? Look at the sheer number of people who are going to enter the workforce next 10 years, right? I think there are enough studies on that. And look at the kind of available formal jobs which have been there year on year last few years, right? We will realize that there is going to be a gap between the two, right? Now, how can that be solved? If any sector comes up, like a lot of people are placing their hopes on sectors like climate tech, which is going to create more jobs because there is global investment happening there, COP2030 goals, etc. Now, if any of those sectors come up, what IT sector had done for India in the last few decades, if one of the sectors come up, then yes, a lot more people will probably align towards that. So at the same time, what I personally believe is it's dangerous to follow a mass trend, right? If you wait and say, okay, the mass trend is this is where jobs will happen and I will try to only go for that, then you're always playing catch up, right? Whereas I think what you mentioned, right? If the real issue is social perception, right? And how will people look at me if I'm not doing this? I think that is where parents and mentors and schools have to play a very, very important role, right? Which is that even the government is recommending skilling becoming very, very critical in schools and the perception for skilling and vocational skilling really improving. Parents have to play a very, very important role because the dignity of work and the dignity of actually doing something useful for society is far more important than just sitting with degrees and not being able to use your skills effectively. And mentors play a very, very important role, right? Because they can show role models, right? And they can show, and you can even become an entrepreneur if you can aggregate demand, right? You may not just have to sit and do that job yourself. You might be able to solve a bigger problem by bringing in people with that skill and then being able to actually look at what is the answer. Today, if you look at how urban company is built up, right? It's a fascinating example of, what problem they're solving in a large market like India, right? Like if you buy even IKEA furniture, IKEA in other countries, just you set it up on your own, right? But in India, they even have a service installation for IKEA, right? And people are willing to pay for that, right? So that is the demand supply arbitrage that companies are able to bring in. So I would say going back to entrepreneurial skills, which we talked about, Mukesh talked about, extremely important, right? That this idea that I am learning, therefore I am, a job is my right. I think compared to that, I am learning, therefore how can I solve a problem which can really be a bigger problem tomorrow? I think that shift is what parents and mentors can help students imbibe. And through that, this does sound a little global, but I think through that they can figure, okay, I'm good in a particular area. Let me try that, right? Or am I good in a particular couple of areas? Let me combine it and see what happens. I think that's where I feel the magic will probably happen instead of just following trends.
Mukesh sir, I think let the youngsters have a chance to ask questions to them.
Yeah. So Kriti, all yours.
So good evening, everyone. So Evelina ma'am, I have a question that I'm a college student and constantly hear that AI will replace most jobs in the next few years. As someone who's still deciding my career path, how do I choose a field that won't become irrelevant because of AI? And what skills should I focus on to stay future-proof?
What is your area of college education, Kriti?
It is computer science.
So yeah, I think we've partly addressed this, Kriti. I think very, very important is to kind of focus on language skills, because I think over time, what you will see is a lot of the software applications, you have to write the prompt, write the instructions for someone to kind of automate the code, right? So build your language skills. This was never a question for computer science engineers earlier, but I think today that's a good differentiator. You have read a lot. If you are good at writing, then explore writing, but try to explore your language skills a lot more, Kriti. That is one part. The second part is while you're in college itself, start, and this is nothing to do with skills, right? It's more aptitude and ambition. Start doing small projects, which may not be paid also initially, right? But if you find your college professor maybe trying to do some research, help him in that, help her or him in that. Or if you find some startup in your neighborhood or even a young company, then volunteer maybe a few weekends to help them. So try to, and a lot of people I see do this, right? Where you're using college as a practical ground. Don't depend on the college to kind of help you get a job, right? The college is giving you learning, is giving you exposure, is giving you a network, which is your peer network and your teachers. But if you can start doing these things on your own, which is kind of building your skills, applying your skills, and third very important thing is building your network, right? So your college network, plus on tools like LinkedIn, starting to kind of figure out who are the people who are doing what in the sector and trying to also reach out and find out opportunities. So I had one person who had reached out to me. He was from IT Kanpur when he was in second year, right? Very, very bright kid. And he just said, I'm coming to Bangalore, I want to do an internship. 3 years he did internship. Every time he had break from college, he would come back to an internship. He was trying to learn the VC sector, right? And that's what it helped him do. And today he's part of a private equity firm. So just, the importance of self-learning and, having kind of an opportunity to apply your skills rather than waiting for the college to give you is what I would, this is a very practical answer, Preeti. May not be the best answer you're looking for, I don't want to give a theoretical answer, Kriti, because you're looking for something which can help you. So that is what I would say, Kriti. Try to pick up local kind of internships and volunteering, which can help you. Everything will count, Kriti. No matter what work you do now, it'll help you get more answers to the question you're saying, which is what will happen. And then AI, don't look at AI being a mega villain, which will kill jobs, right? Like we talked about, there'll be these three kinds of roles, right? Algorithm creators, and you can become one if you're extremely good in language plus code. That could be a path, very highly paid, right? You can do that. And second is algorithm collaborators, right? Which is basically where you get your domain so good. Maybe you understand water sector excellently, right? I'm just giving a blind example. Water is a huge problem in the world today. And if you can use that domain understanding with technology to create something world has not seen, or join a company which does something the world has probably just starting to see, it would be amazing, Kriti. So focus on that. And this rhetoric that AI is out to get us is something I think your generation and your computer science engineering group, I think you have to debunk this, Kriti.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing I would add, Kriti, so when books first came up, right, that books were not there earlier, right? We used to have only few people access to knowledge. Then, the printing press was discovered, and then books started becoming more and more accessible. So in the beginning, today we revere books, right? In the beginning, books were thought to be things which actually are not going to spread good information because people were scared, right? What will happen if knowledge spreads? What will happen if more people read, right? So every new technology, at that time was a technology, right? Printing press. Similarly, calculators. When calculators came up, people were extremely worried. What will happen to math skills? Will people even learn math? Or they'll use calculators. So every technology goes through this phase of adoption and I would say disbelief, right? And then it settles. So this hype period will settle, Kriti, where everybody talks about using AI first and AI everywhere. You're already seeing it in terms of, AI slop, content coming out with AI, etc. Code, which is vibe coding, not ready for production. You will see that happening more and more. So just be patient, Kriti. And if you have a couple of years left in your college, focus on learning, focus much more on application, and trying to build a few domain areas which you are really, really good at, and build your network. Just really build your network.
Thank you, Devlina. So I would just like to add one thing, and then maybe one question from Navji, and we'll end the session. So basically, there's a friend of mine in US. I was talking to him regarding the impact of AI, and he was quoting some MIT study where he was talking about 11% of jobs are going to be taken by AI in the current context, number one. And India is 12 months. The lag between India and US is 12 months. And what he's saying is the MIT figures are quite conservative. And in 18 months period, this 11% figure is likely to go up to almost 50%. Of course, the US context is different. Indian economy is different because we have a lot of blue collar jobs. And so I'm assuming whatever he's talking about is basically white collar jobs. Plus, India is a domestic consumption oriented economy. So there are certain sectors and there are certain areas where we can control a lot of the stuff. Having said that, the blue collar jobs and the gig economy and creation of entrepreneurs is very much staring us in terms of macro level view of the economy. So even my son who's doing PhD, he gets exposed to a lot of people globally and also, as they call it, Gen Z in India. And he's coming up with a very fresh view, which is quite, gives me a very happy feeling that the Gen Z wants to get into blue collar jobs. Having said that, what we at Career Tech, we have tried to create a macro level scenario where what we say that there are certain skills which can be called the hot skills of 2030. So which means anybody and everybody who's studying right now should be ready for those skills. And some of those skills are soft skills, sensitivity, collaboration, team guy. So communication skills are very important. And use of knowledge of psychology in communication. And then we come to your expertise, Devlina, storytelling. So storytelling is something which I feel it cuts across sectors and it cuts across domains, and it cuts across so as a strategy, not only it itself can become a huge vertical. Storytelling with data, storytelling without data. And I would like to tell all of you that Devlina had done a very specific case study on Sholay. Why don't we just talk about it and then we'll end the call, end the session.
Yeah, I think with the Gen Z, I have to check, have you watched Sholay? Because I was in one session where people said, okay, what is Sholay? Right? But Sholay is this iconic movie where, it had everything. It had the masala, the romance, the fun, etc. And it had a very, very interesting story. So it had, 3-4 main characters. So the character of the Thakur, who's the one basically who's calling the protagonists and actually asking them to face the enemy, right? There's the enemy, which is basically Gabbar Singh, very iconic played, and there are the heroes, right? Flawed but lovable heroes, Jay and Viru, right? Now just imagine these three sets of characters, right? You have Thakur, you have Jay and Viru, and you have Gabbar Singh, right? So one of the things which we do in our workshops is actually just think from their perspective. If you tell the story of Sholay from Thakur, what would you say, right? What was the story about, and what was really the end, right, of Thakur? If you tell it from Gabbar Singh, what will you say, right? So Gabbar Singh will not say it's a beautiful village and all that stuff. He's very different, right? And right, Kitne Aadmi The was actually iconic, and there was a reason for that, right? And if you think of it from Jay and Viru, they had a very big change of heart, right? They came in because they were captured and they were trying to actually solve something. In between, they were trying to run away with also the money. And then they started to believe in the story of the village, and it was a redemption arc, etc. That's the beauty of storytelling, right? When you think of your career as a story, when you think of your business narrative as you join jobs as a story, then you will first think of characters like this. Who's the main character in terms of your audience, your stakeholder, you, yourself, and you think about their asks, right? Their treasures, and you think about their conflicts. And automatically what you see is what you say is far more authentic and nuanced than just saying, Sholay is a movie which, in 1970s came up and did this and that, right? So character-driven, data-driven, and narrative-driven storytelling is a huge skill to have, as Mukesh is saying, and each one of you can actually become really, really good at that.
Great. So thank you very much, Devlina. Thank you, everyone. So I would
Thank
request Jyoti to give a formal thank you note, and then we can end the podcast.
So thank you so much, Deblina. This was a very, very insightful conversation that we had. Of course, I love the Sholay bit. I could relate to that the most because I've watched it n number of times. Thank you, Mukesh sir. Thank you, Navji, and thank you Preeti, for your questions. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For this podcast.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, and all the very best, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So how did it go, sir?
नहीं अच्छा था तो फादर इमरजेंसी में
Oh my goodness. When you shifted? When was he shifted?
नहीं अभी जस्ट कॉल के
Oh.
तो कृति हैज लॉग्ड ऑफ
Yeah, she has logged on.
चलो ठीक है आई थिंक विल जस्ट एंड इट एंड आई विल टॉक टू यू सेपरेटली ऑन फोन
Okay.
ओके ओके
Thank you.